Okay, so we made it to the end of the first 5 days. Now this is the last video I'm going to post this week. If you'd stayed with us and you read 5 chapters, 5 days in a row, hey, celebrate that. That's awesome. But here's the deal. Keep reading. Now I'm only posting 5 a week because the truth is I want this challenge to be something that gets people reading the Bible. And I don't want people to get discouraged if they have to miss a day. So by doing 5 out of 7, we're building failure into the process. But if you didn't miss a day, by all means shoot for 7 a week. You can read the Bible without me. So here's what stood out to me in chapter 5. This is basically half of the chapter. Now I know, I've been saying, watch for a word or a phrase. But today, this whole section stood out to me. And that's okay. See, this isn't a system. We're working on a relationship here. I love this section. Jesus literally does a miracle on the way to do another miracle. The leader of the local synagogue comes to Jesus in despair. His little daughter's close to death, and the guy falls at Jesus' feet and he begs the Lord, come lay hands on my daughter and heal her. Jesus doesn't even hesitate. In verse 24, and he went with him. If you're watching this in the United States and Canada or Western Europe, the idea of losing a child to disease is thankfully a very rare circumstance. If you're watching in the countries of the third world, it's relatively common. See, I bring that up because it's easy to get isolated in our own culture. But those believers in the third world, they're our family too. Just like Jesus is moved by this man's plea for his daughter's life, we should be moved by the plight of our family in other parts of the world too. Now it says a great crowd follows. Now come on, who doesn't want to see a miracle, right? So at this point, Jesus is a celebrity and they throng around him. A woman in the crowd touches him and she's healed. Now Jesus knows it happens and he stops to ask who it was that touched him. He was literally on his way to do another miracle and he heals somebody on the way. Now this lady had been pushed aside by society. Jesus was not on his way to heal her. But guess what? She was healed anyway. Do you ever feel like your problems aren't worth God's time? Like he must be too busy doing really important things to be concerned with you. There are huge problems in the world. Shouldn't we all just be praying for world peace and leave it at that? See, good news. Jesus can handle multiple things at a time, big and small and everywhere in between. And while this lady's problem wasn't as big a deal as a little girl who was near death, or as we find out in verse 35 was already dead, Jesus still took the time to stop, to recognize her, and to proclaim that her healing was in him. So what's my takeaway? God's not too busy for me. Just because my life isn't terrible, my problems seem like they may be less consequential than other people's, I should never be afraid to reach out to the Lord, and neither should you.